welcome, Ramzi. This is the Global Digest think tank group. We are analyzing the global crisis issue and different country issue, and we share our knowledge and advocating around the world. I know you are good in humanitarian. I see your profile, you have experienced a lot of humanitarian work. So can you share us yourself and introduce to our audience, where are you now and what is your background? Please, Ramzi.
All right. First, allow me to thank you for this opportunity. This is quite amazing for me to discuss such a topic globally on the platform. So my name is Ramzi. I'm from Lebanon. I'm Lebanese from Lebanon. I'm a professional humanitarian, and I'm a volunteer with the Lebanese Red Cross since 1998. So I'm a humanitarian at heart since the beginning of my career. I worked with in multi-sectorial fields. I've joined professionally the humanitarian sector since 2014. I worked as area manager, operation coordinator, and operation director now with a local organization. I'm a certified trainer in first aid. I'm a certified trainer in emergency preparedness and disaster management. I'm a certified person in fraud and corruption, fighting against fraud and corruption. So this is briefly my background. I studied law in Lebanon. Then I studied. I continued my master's in France. I studied there criminology, police science, and I came back to my country to work here.
Yes, thank you, Ramzi, for your introduction. And right now you are working in a humanitarian organization in Lebanon.
Yes.
Can you tell us exactly, because our audience, we don't know much about humanitarian activity. Can you share us your humanitarian activity in Lebanon? Which department, which organization you are working right now, and what kind of activity is in Lebanon?
Okay. So I currently work for a local organization called SPOT, S-P-O-T. Its main mandate is to work for sustainable development.
NGO is non-government organization?
Yes,
Okay.
it is a non-profit organization, yeah. So the humanitarian sector in Lebanon got bigger after the Syrian crisis in 2011. Right. So after the Syrian crisis erupted in 2011, the humanitarian sector in Lebanon became a booming sector, and it's became one of the main industries in Lebanon.
Right.
A lot of funds came here. A lot of international actors crossed the borders and came in Lebanon to support in managing the crisis.
So your organization is mainly working for Syria refugee, not for local Lebanese people. It's also
no. On the contrary, my organization works for the Lebanese community, but I was explaining how the humanitarian sector evolved from before the Syrian crisis and after the Syrian crisis. So we had a lot of organizations before the crisis, but after 2011, since too many funds came to Lebanon, it became an industry by itself. So my organization works just for the Lebanese, and by supporting the Lebanese community, we support indirectly the Syrian community as well. But our main focus is to create sustainable development projects for the host community, for Lebanon.
I see. I mean, because there are a lot of Syrian refugees, they fled to Lebanon. Maybe probably you organization, you said indirectly supporting for their shelter, food, or something like that.
No, after in the mid in mid 2015 and beyond, it was called, for the Syrian crisis, it was called a protracted crisis. It means that it's not an emergency crisis anymore. It is a protracted crisis, and it has to become more about development rather than an emergency response. And from there onwards, all NGOs started to create sustainable projects. And this is where we came in 2018 as a spot to establish our organization and to start working with the host community, because at some point, the host community, which is the Lebanese community, became more vulnerable than ever for not being able to support the infrastructure and to support the whole mass of the refugees. And the Lebanese community became vulnerable itself. That's why we started to establish a sustainable development project for the Lebanese, but it's not food. We do not provide refugees with food. Instead, we provide them with work within the limitations of the law, and by supporting Lebanese entrepreneurs. They became able to pay salaries for the refugees who worked legally for them.
I see. So I understanding what you said is the emergency response for like Syria refugee shelter, food, and those things are finished. Now you are doing a next step for self-supporting program and basic, as you said, substantial development, which means they have to have a job and they have to do their own business and to be their regular life. So they need a job. That you said, Lebanese business entrepreneur there, you are working with them and they can hire Syrian refugee as a employee, a kind of such cooperation with a local entrepreneur and as well as Syria refugee. Is right?
Yeah, just want to correct one information that we still have projects and programs to support Syrian refugees in terms of shelter, wash, food, but it is one part of the intervention. And the other part, which is started to convert into more development, are supporting the Lebanese community to be able to handle the crisis as well. So we still have other projects, but the main focus started to shift in 2018 and above to support also Lebanese communities. So we still have like international organizations who they have their sole mandate to support refugees, and we have organizations that support both communities, and we have organizations that only support Lebanese communities.
I see. So as you said, you have mainly focused on substantial development with the local entrepreneurs. Mainly which sector? Agriculture sector or any factory sector, or what specific the project you are dealing with them, local entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So mainly when we talk about sustainable development, we tackle all sectors. We tackled the ecology, the environment, the education, health, agriculture, economy, trade. This is when we talk generally about sustainable development, but practically on the ground, we started with agriculture and the ecology, which are the main concern now in Lebanon. So agriculture is the only sector that is still going in Lebanon due to the crisis generally, not just the Russian, Ukrainian crisis that affected the whole world. We also have our own crisis running since 2019 and like still going. So the agriculture sector is the only sector that can provide income to the Lebanese, also to contribute to the GDP for the country. This is one part, and the other part is the main issue since the Syrian crisis erupted, because Lebanon is not a country that is prepared on an infrastructure level to handle a higher mass of population, and pollution is a main issue to handle. So we're tackling currently with my organization the two main sectors that are agriculture and ecology, and between both programs, we are supporting women and to become more self-reliant through multiple programs.
Which kind of you are involved with the agriculture sector?
All right. Yeah, I understand. So our part is mainly to support local farmers. And when we say local farmers, we are tackling the medium and small scale farmers, not the large scale farmers, because they don't need us. We support them in terms of introducing them to new techniques that are implemented abroad, introducing to them new fertilizing and pesticide-free techniques, or not pesticide-free, but pesticide non-harmful pesticide techniques in order to reduce harm to the farms and to the consumers at the same time. Train them on how to grow their plants in several geographical areas, what to plant in high altitudes, what to plant in low altitudes. At the same time, what we're doing now, unfortunately, this is the only way to support farmers financially, is to help them channel their crops outside Lebanon through export. Because this is the only way to earn profits in US dollars, which is the currency that is adopted in Lebanon unofficially, which has value, because the Lebanese currency lost its value gradually since 2019 due to inflation.
So Ramzi, you are explaining, you assisting technical and other, necessary to the local entrepreneur, local farmer. You get a technical support from the Lebanese government or from United Nations or any other country. Do you get any support? Then you can help them, the Lebanese local farmer, or you get any fund from Lebanese government or international society? You can explain more about it?
Yeah. So this government is almost in a hibernation mode. They are totally from supporting the community. They do not pay any subsidies, they do not pay any support, they do not pay any funds to support local NGOs or any local entity. This is for the government. When it comes to international organizations, it's a bit tricky because we have several factors that comes in together to be able to acquire a grant from outside. You have to be legally registered in Lebanon, which we are. You have to have like a common interest with the interest of the donor outside Lebanon, which is mainly they are still focusing on the Syrian crisis because they do not trust the Lebanese government and its policy in Lebanon. That's why when we talk about supporting Lebanese, they feel like still hesitating towards supporting the Lebanese community due to its policy and its controversial attitude towards the international community. It's a huge barrier for us to submit for grants for the Lebanese community. While it's easier to submit grants and proposals for the Syrian crisis. We're trying to channel our projects and proposals for the international donors, but we have a lot of barriers when it comes to executing the grant and receiving the funds. So currently we are counting on the crowdfunding, which we send proposals for Lebanese communities all over the world who can feel the compassion with our cause and they support us from here and there. That's still crowdfunding. But we didn't have any chance yet to promote ourselves and promote our projects to the international community and get the proper support for us.
I see. So basically, you said of exporting to overseas. What kind of good from Lebanon? What kind of agricultural goods did you export to which country? I mean, which country mostly Lebanese your project local farmer target to export in which country?
So mainly we just export from Lebanon. So the main focus is the fruits, and mainly our biggest the champions of the fruits here are the grapes, the cherries, the avocados, and sometimes the apples, the pears, the oranges, but mainly when we talk about export, we talk about the grapes and cherries and avocados. The destination it's diverse. We can say literally that we can export our goods almost all the world. Grapes are exported to Arab countries, to Europe, to the USA, to Canada, to Mexico. The cherries are mostly demanded in Europe. The avocados in the Arab countries.
And it's Lebanon goods delicious, and it's a customer from Europe, American willing to eat your fruit, or what kind of fruit and how much quantity you can able to export abroad?
Yeah. So again, as I said earlier, so mainly we export only fruits. We do not export vegetables. We do, but in a less quantities than the fruits. Grapes, cherries, avocados, pears, apples, oranges. So
I see.
we harvest all kinds of fruits and vegetables, even tropical ones. We started to harvest tropical fruits but and we have a premium quality of almost all the type of fruits. The problem is our country is a small country,
Right.
and we don't have plenty of fields to plant and to harvest. But yet we export to Europe premium quality grapes for consumption or for wine making. We do also export one of the highest quality cherries all over the world.
I see.
So we have the quality, we don't have the quantities, and we
I
don't
see.
have always the means to channel our products in Europe due to like the restrictions, the standards, the localization of each country. Sometimes they refuse to get some of the products from abroad in order to protect their own products from within.
What about local consumer? They have sufficient goods for local consumer.
Generally, we're self-satisfied in terms of growing fruits and vegetables. So, and sometimes when we don't have the season for some types, we do import them from neighboring countries such as Syria, Jordan, Egypt. But generally, we're self-satisfied. And recently, when the crisis erupted in Lebanon in 2019, we started to have scarcity in some of the items because farmers tend to export their items rather than selling them internally, and we do not have regulations in Lebanon to restrict export of the goods and to start with the self-satisfaction, and then we move towards exporting. Instead, sometimes we export all the goods, and internally we start to have scarce items such as lemon, such as tomatoes, such as potatoes. So we export all the quantities, and internally we start to have the need.
I see. You said Lebanon fruit are good quality, but you don't have much quantity. So yeah. It is unfortunate to have many quantity to export abroad. Which means the demand is still it's there in America, Europe, but you don't have much quantity. So yeah. I think it is good for farmer because there are many demand. You can export everything as much as you want. You have, you know, that's mean they don't lost market. So that's how it's related to humanitarian issue, because it's also related to development, you know, economy. But specifically as your field is a humanitarian, how do you define humanitarian? What is the legal point of view? What the responsible humanitarian activity to the Lebanon's? Because humanitarian mostly we understand because of there is disaster or there is a crisis, there is a flood or earthquake. Because of Syria crisis, it's affect Lebanon, and Lebanon was a lot of recipient for Syrian refugee. Then you have to solve this, respond the crisis from Syria, then you develop substantial development for the both local people and Syrian refugee. Is something like this kind of connection? How do you define humanitarian? Because I'm not expert on humanitarian, so you know better humanitarian.
Yeah. So when you say a humanitarian response, it means that to retrieve or to restore the needs of any population to its to at least the basic So when we say vulnerability, it means that the basic needs of any population are not even met. So in Lebanon, neither the Syrian refugees nor the Lebanese citizens are meeting their basic needs. This is why, as humanitarians, we intervene to restore the basics in terms of needs. When we say needs, in whatever the need is in all the sectors, just to save the dignity of their population. So this is why we intervene. And in this crisis, as you said, and you're totally right, we are in face of we are confronting two types of emergencies in Lebanon. The emergency crisis, which erupted in 2011 for the refugee crisis, and in 2019 we have our own crisis in Lebanon, which is part of it is due to the Syrian crisis, and other part which is not related to Syrian crisis, which is related to internal politics and internal corruption that led to an extra collapse in the structure in Lebanon and the whole economy. What we're trying to do is for the agriculture, for the agricultural sector, is to keep it as sane as possible. Not to export, to support the farmers, not to export on the goods, at the same time to export some of the goods in order to earn the living. At the same time, we're trying to train all the farmers to harvest as much as possible as crops in order to diversify the agricultural calendar in Lebanon, rather than just focusing on grapes, cherries, potatoes, tomatoes, and like the type of fruits that are sold easily. So when we diversify the calendar, more people have the market to sell, rather than having one or two items that are the champions and they are sold easily, but in lower prices because there are a lot of offer and less demand.
So as we can say, there can be two kinds of crises. One is man-made disaster. It's a political problem or like civil war in Syria and other part of the world. Those are just man-made crisis because of it's created by human, not by nature. So that is one crisis. Then the other crisis is natural crisis, right? Like earthquake or flood or a kind of those thing. I think you are dealing mostly with the man-made crisis, right? Man-made disaster, like crisis in the Syria, and as well as you said, there is an internal conflict in Lebanon that also become crisis. So many man-made crisis you are facing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You're right. Fortunately, Lebanon is somehow safe from natural disasters. So we rarely have floods. We rarely have like hurricanes. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have like tornadoes. We don't have like avalanches from snows. We're fortunate that we have very sometimes we will face fires and disasters from fires, but our main concern is to prevent a natural disaster, but our main challenge is the man-made disasters. Yes.
So I know there are many Syrian refugees in Lebanon. Do you know, I think Turkey also accept many Syrian refugees, you know.
Yeah.
Lebanon also accepting how many million of refugees in Lebanon, and how their situation so far. They still cannot go back in Syria. Syria situation is not stable yet, or is still a lot of problem inside Syria. How's Lebanese government responding to Syria crisis, and how your humanitarian dealing with refugee in Syria?
All right. Actually, it's a very good question. Currently, we have around 1 million Syrian refugees that are registered within the UN agency. So within UNHCR, which is the United Nations Higher Council for Refugees, the formal numbers are 1 million refugees.
Right.
We had a peak number in 2017, which was around 1.6 million refugees. Throughout the years from 2017 till now, it's almost 6 years now, it's 5 years, we had a lot of refugees that were resettled abroad, or they fled Lebanon again through illegal channels to Europe. Even through sea, or when we say registered Syrians, it means that the household or the individual has his profile uploaded and registered within the organizations and within the UN agencies. It means that there are some other refugees that are not registered within the UN agency.
Right.
And they are significant in numbers, that are not like the minorities. So statistically speaking, and in non-formal numbers, we can say we have around 2 million Syrian refugees now in Lebanon.
I see.
Some of them, when you asked about their return in Syria, so Lebanon is not a signatory of the Geneva Convention, which entitles any person of the refugee title. So Syrian refugees in Lebanon are not refugees legally, because Lebanon is not a signatory of the Geneva Convention.
Refugee Convention, right? You did not sign Refugee Convention, but just for as neighbor country, you have to responsible, or you allow them UNHCR to operate in Lebanon, right?
Yeah. So Lebanon opened the border as a neighboring country, as you said. But the problem is with the UN agency, the UN agency considered the Syrians as refugees. But whenever a Syrian person crosses the borders after 2015, I'm talking, whenever any Syrian individual crosses the borders back to Syria and back to Lebanon, they lose their titles as refugees, and then they don't have a status anymore. So they are living in Lebanon without any refugee titles. So they don't have they're not eligible for support anymore, and at the same time they're vulnerable. So
I
this is a crisis by itself.
The status mean when they come to Lebanon, Syrian refugee, they have a UNHCR ID card or some kind of ID card. So you mean some of Syrian refugee go back to the Syria and then they come back, something like that, and they don't have ID card?
Yeah, so like we're bordering countries, so whenever they can easily go back to their country and come back, because war is very limited to very specific areas in Syria now. There is no more war in Syria, but in some specific areas. So they can go back to their homes and come back to Lebanon. Whenever it is registered or identified as the person went back to his homeland and came back to Lebanon, directly eliminated from the records within UNHCR, and by losing the status as refugee, they lose the right to get help, because they believe that a refugee cannot go back to his homeland unless it's safe and unless it's declared safe. So if you are going back to your home, then it means it is safe for you to go back, then you're not a refugee anymore.
So if they go back Syria and once they come back to Lebanon, they don't get any more ID card? You mean like that?
Yeah, they are banned from the assistance.
I see. So UNHCR no more issue the ID card, and they don't support any assistant, or they don't have anything who are in and out from Syria and Lebanon.
Yes.
I see. But once they come to Lebanon at the beginning, they have sufficient, food and sufficient place, shelter or something, then they can asylum in Lebanon as much as they want. Is there such kind of assistance are provided in Lebanon, or why they have to go back?
Yeah, so technically speaking, Lebanon wasn't ready to accept such a number. I'm saying technically we weren't ready to handle such a number, but humanitarianly speaking, we received them with in a warm welcome to avoid war there. But beside other countries such as Turkey, such as Jordan, such as Egypt, who had the proper structure and the proper means to receive the refugees and to handle their crisis in formal camps, we didn't have that option in Lebanon. So they lived in informal settlements. So they are dispersed all over the country. Whenever they found refuge, they leased some houses, they leased an empty piece of land, and they established settlements there. So that was the main issue here in Lebanon, because other countries, they count the refugees and they know how many refugees are there and they support them on a technical level. Here we lost the count. If it wasn't for the UNHCR and the international organizations who were supporting the comers in Lebanon, we didn't have any statistics about the refugees in Lebanon, and we didn't have the means to count and support as a government, I say, the refugees. So technically speaking, all what is done in Lebanon in terms of refugee response, it was for the UN agencies and the international organizations and the local organizations. The government did nothing during the past 12 years, nothing.
I see. So Lebanese government is just providing location for UNHCR and allow UNHCR to operate for refugee assisting in Lebanon, just for Lebanese government support to UNHCR. All these expenses, food and shelter, all these expenses is operated by UNHCR and it's paid by UNHCR. Is right?
UNHCR or other organizations that are receiving funds from different entities all over the world.
I see. So they just operating in Lebanon. So if refugee from Syria, if they feel not safe or they cannot stay very long time in Lebanon, there is a kind of asylum or resettlement program to the third country. Is there available in Lebanon for Syria refugee?
Yeah. So fortunately, we didn't have a lot of tension or fights between Lebanese and Syrians. So protection cases were limited to more of community-based cases and issues rather than it's a global national crisis that could have erupted at the early stage of the crisis. So we didn't have fights between the communities, which is very good. But we do have a program. It's a resettlement program within UNHCR, which is very limited to UNHCR, and no other organizations can provide resettlement services for the refugees. We can only do to refer the cases to UNHCR, and UNHCR works closely with the case and try to resettle the cases via the embassies in Lebanon. So UNHCR with the embassies are working together in order to see where are the vacancies in the foreign countries and what are the cases that can be accepted abroad. And the primary goal is to resettle the cases that has real issues such as medical issues and real tangible protection cases. This is the current case.
Yeah, it's as you said, it is very limited UNHCR program, and it's also limited for resettlement program. We don't know how many are not able to access for resettlement, and they neither can go back Syria. So there are maybe some in the trap, in the difficult situation. So they have to stay in Lebanon, and they have to adjust with Lebanon people, because Lebanon also Muslim country, so the religion is no problem. I guess they can have same religion, and I don't know culture, language, how much similar between Lebanon and Syria. Otherwise, there won't be big problem for living together, Syrian and Lebanon's people.
Yeah. So so Lebanon, just to correct the information, Lebanon is a mixed Arab country. So we're almost half Christians, half Muslims.
I see.
So and we speak Arabic, which is the same language as Syria. Like it's a bit different accent between two countries, but we understand and we talk the same language and we have the same language. So, which is very fortunate for the Syrians to have like a neighboring country. So we always called each other our brother and sister. So I think, in my opinion, Lebanon is the best country to flee to for the refugees because we're almost alike in all means. But again, as you mentioned, John, eventually you're outside your country and you're a refugee, and whatever the other country can offer you, it won't be as your own country. So you're out of your land, you're out of your home, you're a refugee. How many, as much as we're gonna be welcoming them, they're gonna feel straight out of their homes. And go back to their own will and their own wishes. And I wish one day we can reach an agreement between the countries, and the war is ruled out in Syria, and they can go back safely to their homes. Meanwhile, they are most here in Lebanon, and we're trying to support and serve them as much as good as possible.
Right. Yeah. As you said, I understand. Lebanese people cannot accept everybody come to Lebanon, because Lebanese consider not all of them are refugee, you know. Some are refugees, some are not refugee, all are mixed up in that situation. And Lebanese government is not signed refugee convention, but still hosting refugee by allowing UNHCR to operate in Lebanon. And you still take caring because of same language, same religion. Many of them are Muslim. So it's very easy for Syrian refugee to live in Lebanon and to mingle with Lebanese people, you know. So I mean, you did many things, as you said, I understand that Lebanese government and Lebanese people not consider everybody's refugee, but they are recognized refugee, you know. UNHCR also recognize refugee, but for those recognized refugees should be deal according to international law, international refugee law. Even though Lebanon government not sign refugee convention, you still have to deal with international law. And I don't know how much Lebanese government uh, supporting or cooperating with Syrian government. That also depend, you know, the relationship between Lebanon and Syria regime. In that relationship, the helping refugee also affected how much Lebanese government recognize Syrian Assad regime and how their relationship right now.
Yeah, so as you may know, for the audience as well, the Syrian regime occupied Lebanon for like many years, since
I see.
Since the 1989 until 2005, and before that we had like the war between the civilians and the Syrian regime to end the occupation. This is as a historical brief. And after 2005, the Lebanese people managed to end the occupation of the Syrian regime, and the Syrian regime always tried to come back from many windows to grasp again control over the country.
Right.
So they have their own allies in Lebanon, and they have the opposite, the opposition for the Syrian regime, which created the political tension sometimes between the regime and the Syrian regime, and sometimes between the opposition and the regime, which created an issue internally, because some of the people doesn't want any intervention from the Syrian regime within the Lebanese regime, and some others are the allies who always welcome the intervention within the regime. But eventually, this issue created like a major tension, and it ended up by closing the borders from the Syrian side toward the Lebanese side. And as you may know, the Syrian borders is the only channel for the Lebanese trade towards the Arab countries. Whenever we have a trade by land, Syria is the only way to cross towards the Arab countries. So when they closed the borders, it was some sort of a punishment for the Lebanese country to end and to stop the means to trade with Arab countries. And it's a message that only by our means and by our terms we can go back to communicate with the Arab countries. And we went by the alternatives, which is by sea or by air, which is very expensive. And major trades ended between Lebanon and Arab countries due to expenses to trade by sea or by air.
So as you said, there is no good historical background relationship between Syria and Lebanon, right? You have Lebanon was attacked by Syria and occupied by Syria in the past, so it's not good things, right? And now I think Lebanon government is not supporting Assad regime, right? And
yeah, it is. Now the government is an ally for the Syrian regime, but before they didn't have the opposition. Now they have the resistance and the opposition from inside.
Lebanon government more prefer for the opposition who against Assad regime, right?
No, the Lebanese government now is an ally for the Assad regime.
They still watching Assad's regime and analyzing.
They consider them as an ally. So they somehow the main government in Lebanon likes and wants to communicate with Assad regime, but they have the internal resistance. So they have the opposition from inside. Yes. Yes.
I see.
They're trying to establish a relationship with the regime, but they are concerned from the internal opposition.
So I think Lebanese government not provide any assistance or logistic help to the opposition. They neither support, right?
No.
I see. So that's also vis and vis Lebanese government position on Assad regime, you know, it's a kind of hot, it's lukewarm situation. I see. So it's
Yes.
Can you say the Lebanese is a democracy country, or is how do you categorize in Lebanon?
This is my personal opinion. I think Lebanon is on the paper and in our constitution is a democratic country, but in a practical way, it's a fake democracy because people cannot elect their true representatives, and we cannot change the law, and we cannot change our status, we cannot change our economy because we're tied down with too many constraints and obstacles, and eventually the rulers are not the true representatives of the people, and eventually, consequently, we're in a fake democracy because whoever is taking the decision does not really reflect the true need and will of the people.
So when was your last election in Lebanon?
Last May.
How do you
6 months ago?
5
months ago.
How do you see the election? You're not satisfied, or it's a lot of corruption?
The Lebanese people were criticizing the political layer for all the circumstances that happened 3 years ago and beyond. So I was imagining that a change in the perspective and the view of the parliament more than what happened in fact. So we have 128 representative for the whole people. We're a small country, so we're 4-point-something million citizens in Lebanon. So I was expecting more change of what really happened. People re-elected the same type of rulers again.
I see.
Even though they were criticizing, they were heavily criticizing the same rulers for the circumstances and for the results of corruption. And again, they re-elected them for 4 new years of mandate. So I didn't understand quite the formula. How come you're criticizing a person for committing corruption, and again you re-elect him for 4 years mandate? So
you want to say the people are criticizing the Lebanese government for not perfect democracy. In spite of that election, it turned out they are winning again and again. Do you want to say there are corruption in election or cheating vote or something is happened?
No.
Is there any evidence?
We don't have evidence for corruption, though we had a few cases that wanted to appeal for the results. I don't rule out totally some few minors maybe corruption here and there, but I really put the blame on the people who went back and re-elected the same people for a new mandate. And we are only responsible and accountable for our own action. I hope that people got the awareness and they tasted the bitterness of the previous regime and to make a change. And yet they didn't make the change. So we are accountable for our own mistakes.
I see. Yes, people are some kind of maybe they have a low education or immature political experience or something. How do you think its education level is good in Lebanon, or how their political knowledge level in Lebanon?
Yeah, John, we are a highly educated people. So we have, I can assure you that Lebanese people are, we have zero literacy.
I see.
Yeah, so everyone goes to school, everyone goes to the university, everyone is educated, everyone at least speaks 2 languages. So we're open. We traveled the globe, but when it comes to politics, it goes back to religions, and each one goes back to a tighter community, which is its own religion. And the whole problem in Lebanon, the whole war in Lebanon erupted just in the name of religion and faith, and it is totally bluff. It's a total bluff, because whenever we go abroad, Lebanese are joined together and love each other, and whenever we are inside our country, we fight against each other in the name of religion.
I see. So you mentioned the Lebanese are educated; they are very literated people, but in terms of politics, they are not good to select a good leader under democracy category, right? So it's unfortunate because other country, most developing country, people are low education and they have poor political knowledge, so they cannot elect a good leader. But in case of Lebanon, you have a good education, but still it can happen, they could not select a good democracy. How do you think it's just because of religion between Christian, Muslim? Just because of religion, they are crazy with the religion and they forget about politics.
It's not just for religion. We are easily manipulated when it comes to ideological issues. So leaders can easily manipulate their partisans. They can just start throwing speeches here and there that we are the minority, we're going to be fought by everyone, we're going to be eliminated. So they can easily manipulate the mind of people that you are going to be attacked and eliminated from existence. So PhD holders can become soldered in a fragment of 7. So yeah, this is a very unfortunate. But
right.
the new generation, we are counting on the new generation to change that, and we can see and detect changes in the mentality of the new generation. They are less aggressive and they are less accepting. They are less accepting the mentality of war and fights against each other, which is good. But it's going to take some more generations to come in order to change the whole concept of coexisting in Lebanon.
I mean, among Lebanese population or Lebanese political party, is there supporting communism or socialism, some kind of authoritarianism? Is there anybody supporting, or is there any sign of those things? I see.
There is a small party in Lebanon. There is a small party in Lebanon that believes in communism, but they started to change as well in order to follow the evolution. So they're like the new evolved type of communism, but this is just an idea. In fact, they're liberal and they believe in entrepreneurship and in businesses and in making profits and in the state. So it's just like titles here and there.
Which are big party in Lebanon? Which party are biggest?
Politically speaking, we have 3 parties that are the biggest in Lebanon. One Muslim Sunnit. It used to be supported by Hariri family.
It's Muslim religion.
Sunnit, yes, Muslim Sunnit.
I see.
Established by Hariri family, which was established by the late Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri. And there is Hezbollah, which is Muslim Shia.
That is a current ruling party.
Yeah, and there is the Lebanese forces, which is a Christian resistance political party, and dated back in the date when the Lebanese people were fighting against the Syrian occupation.
I see. So now Sunni Muslim ruling party, and you said in Lebanon political is a problem because
Christian party.
Current ruling party is Christian party.
No, current, yeah, there is a party which is within the ruling body, but it's not as big as the party which is in the opposition.
I see. It's a kind of they are one group. The ruling has an alliance between Muslim Sunni and Christian party. There
is an alliance between Muslim Sunni and Christian opposition, and the other party is Hezbollah Shia, Muslim Shia, with the Christian party as well.